Severe weather brings threats of gusty wind, hail, and heavy rain. A weather alert in effect for today. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers breaking down how long it will last. Then jury deliberation continues in the Squeegee kid murder trial. Fox 45 News tells you about a note from the jury today. Plus, we look back at the history of Squeegee kids in Baltimore leading to this deadly interaction. And our team digs deeper into the duty to retreat laws playing a big role in this trial.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
This is natural in a case of this complexity.
Like the general public, we're left to wait.
A jury is deliberating the fate of a Squeegee kid accused of killing a Baltimore driver. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. The jury now in its second day of deliberations. Just over a year ago, Timothy Reynolds was killed on Light Street in downtown Baltimore. 16-year-old Tavon Scott is accused of shooting him. Throughout the trial, Scott's defense has focused on his age at the time of the shooting. He was just 14 years old and claimed police never proved he was actually the one who shot Reynolds.
Meantime, the prosecution says video evidence proves their version of the story, that Scott shot Reynolds multiple times as Reynolds was walking away and should be held accountable. Fox 45 News has been in the courtroom for every day of the trial, and we continue our team coverage.
Rebecca Pryor live at the Mistrial courthouse with the latest on when we could see a verdict. Rebecca?
Kai and Mary, will the jury come to a decision or will they deadlock? That's the question on the minds of many inside the Mistrial courthouse today. Around 2:30 this afternoon, the jury came to the judge asking for the meaning of a mistrial, but instead the judge sent them back and told them it's too soon to quit. After an explosive week-long trial in the case of a teenage squeegee worker accused of murder, all anyone can do now is watch and wait.
It's obviously hard.
Thuru Vignaraja is representing the family of Timothy Reynolds, a father, a brother, and a son who prosecutors say was gunned down by Tavon Scott from about 10 feet away at the corner of Light and Conway. An autopsy revealing Reynolds was shot once in the head, chest, and 3 times in the back.
They've waited a long time for justice. They can wait a little longer.
But presumably no one is more anxiously awaiting an outcome than the 16-year-old defendant.
He's on pins and needles, as they say.
Scott's attorney, Warren Brown, arguing the prosecution failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt Scott was the killer, and law enforcement failed to thoroughly investigate other suspects.
His whole future hangs in the balance.
Midway through the day, the judge receiving a note from the jury asking for the definition of a mistrial. The judge sending them back to the drawing board with a message of her own. You must consult with one another and continue to deliberate to reach an agreement, she said. The defense quickly going from confident.
I don't think they're going to get hung up at all. This is a very smart jury.
To uncertain.
I think that may have been an exaggeration yesterday. You got 12 strangers that are in this room. You don't know really what was important to them, what wasn't important to them, how they perceived the evidence.
Some of the charges up for debate: first-degree murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter, and illegal possession of a handgun.
Those are hard questions for anyone to wrestle with.
And if no unanimous decision can be made,
then it's up to the state whether they want to retry this case or not.
Will the state retry this case?
That's really a question for the state. What I can tell you is that the family is going to fight as long and as hard as it takes to make sure that justice is delivered here. Now, I did directly ask the city state's attorney's office today, do they plan on retrying this case should it end in a mistrial? They told me no comment. Reporting live outside of the Mistrial courthouse, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. We continue our team coverage right now. We're joined by attorney Jeremy Eldridge to help us break down what today's developments mean. Jerry, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And so, Jeremy, we just heard from Rebecca. The jury asked for the definition of a mistrial before the judge issued an Allen charge. Can you explain what each of these are and tell us what it tells about where the jury is at this point?
Of course. And let's start with an Allen charge. An Allen charge is where a jury has already received all of the evidence in the case and they have been charged with deliberating, meaning coming to a verdict in the case. We call it an Allen charge because sometimes during a case, when the jurors are not confident that they can come to that unanimous decision, all 12 of them in a criminal trial or 6 in a civil trial, that they can agree, the judge can issue this charge to say, you took an oath to deliberate. and you took an oath to come to a unanimous verdict, and I'm asking that you do so. And it's a reminder to go back into that jury room and really to give it your best efforts, maybe beyond what you've done, to review the evidence, to listen to each other, and to try to resolve the case and give some finality. With regard to a mistrial, however, that comes when you can't get that unanimity, when you can't reach that unanimous verdict. The jurors have tried. Now, remember, this case took 5 days to try, so you can expect jury deliberations to take more than 1 day. Some lawyers would say it takes as many days as the trial. So if we hit day 4, day 5, day 6, they've been Allen charged, and they can't meet a resolution, then the judge has the ability to declare what we would call hung jury or mistrial, and essentially put the ball back in the state's court to say, we can't reach a resolution. Do you want to try this defendant again?
Yeah, Jeremy, Attorney Warren Brown just said that he thinks they need to be cautious. You don't want to presume what a jury is thinking and how they might render a verdict. Do you want to expand on that?
Of course, because what's going on in the back room has secrecy. You know, are these 12 individuals, are they arguing about, for instance, first-degree murder versus second-degree murder, second-degree murder versus manslaughter? Are they having a conversation about whether it was self-defense or what's called imperfect self-defense? Are they arguing about guilt versus innocence? They could be having such a wide spectrum of different factual arguments and conversations. We're going to have to wait to find out. And that's why if the judge is saying go back and deliberate, maybe they need to listen to each other a little bit more, have some more conversation, review the evidence, and come to that verdict.
If we do end up with a hung jury in this trial, what comes next, and when could we see another trial? How does the process form after this?
So if the judge decides to declare a mistrial, meaning we have no unanimous verdict, what would happen next is that the matter would have to be rescheduled for another trial date. The other thing to note would be, for instance, the defendant, if detained, like in this case, could potentially ask for a bail review and ask to be home. There are different rules regarding speedy trial. So, for instance, the speedy trial that you're entitled to within 180 days doesn't apply after a retrial. So the rules change a little bit. But inarguably, what would happen is we would just see another trial date, and we'd say a second iteration of this trial, but with the public having a much better idea of how strong the case is, or weak.
All right. Interesting analysis as always. Jeremy, thank you for joining us. Attorney Jeremy Eldridge.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
Thanks, Jeremy. Well, many say Reynolds' death was a breaking point for the city. After years of Squeegee-related issues, it even prompted a new plan from city leaders. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker has a look at how we got here.
Baltimore City intersections where Squeegee kids were once commonplace were mostly free of the window washers today as jurors deliberate in the deadly case of Timothy Reynolds. The same day Reynolds was murdered, police say they fielded multiple calls involving Squeegee workers, including one from State Senator Antonio Hayes, who said he was approached by a group of kids at the same intersection and assaulted. But the troubled history of Squeegee workers dates back decades, frustration mounting over the years, leading to one violent encounter after another. In January 2020, a 52-year-old man was assaulted outside of his vehicle in downtown Baltimore. Shocking video sent to Fox 45 appears to show the man being hit repeatedly by a Squeegee kid. The following month, 2 Baltimore City police officers were attacked by 2 men after receiving a complaint for Squeegee workers. In August, another attack was caught on camera, allegedly showing Squeegee kids pelt a driver's car with rocks. Then in April 2021, a clash came with a death threat at MLK and Washington Boulevard. A woman in the car with her 2 children says when she told the Squeegee workers no, things took a violent turn for the worse.
He comes and throws the whole bottle of soap suds on my car.
In October, a woman was left bruised and bloodied at the intersection of President and Lombard after she says she was assaulted by a Squeegee kid.
Next thing I know, he is in my car beating me in the face with a stick.
At that same intersection the week prior, another man was allegedly hit multiple times by Squeegee kids.
He pool cued and popped me right in the face.
And last October, a Baltimore County physician was robbed by a Squeegee kid with police nearby. As the man handed the boy $2 bills, the Squeegee kid reportedly said, "No, I want more," and grabbed the driver's wallet, taking about $300 in cash.
I never thought that he would grab my wallet and run like a little punk.
And that wasn't the first time Squeegee kids have been accused of stealing money. There were several reports of the kids scamming people out of money using the Cash App last year. Police even going as far as to warn drivers of the theft in November. Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you believe there's still a squeegee problem in Baltimore? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Let's take a live look outside right now at Baltimore, the Inner Harbor, and also Towson. We are expecting some storms to move through the area in about an hour. Although, Jonathan, I kind of went through rain, sun, rain again, and I'm not kidding you. It was like this wave coming from Owings Mills out in the county into work downtown. I just went through this wave of weather. Really weird today.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, it's been really touch and go. It depends on where you are. Now, here in most of the city, it's been fairly dry. But if you looked off to the east, you saw those clouds building. I know down by my house in Anne Arundel County, we had some downpours, and they just got blasted right around the Dundalk area, right near where the Patapsco actually meets the Chesapeake Bay. There was some odd 5 to 6 inches of rain indicated on the radar. So just really changeable, different weather depending on where you are. There is a severe thunderstorm watch that continues for the entire area through 8 p.m. For now, we're in a lull, but I don't think that's going to last. We also have a flood watch that's in effect up and down the 95 corridor, especially urbanized areas. They have a harder time really kind of getting rid of this water as fast as it comes down. Take a look. I'm not lying. 5 to 6 inches of rain reported on the radar just south and east of Dundalk and Canton. And this was at about noontime. A forming line of showers and storms just kind of stalling out. And that's a concern into this evening. Gusty damaging winds, maybe some hail, and maybe even some flooding rain through 5, 6, especially I'd say 6 p.m. and beyond. That's when our next band of showers and storms really gets going. I'm going to be tracking that on the Future Scan coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Jonathan, thanks. Put the power of the Weather Authority Storm Center in your hands. Download the free WBFF Weather Authority app for your smartphone and use our powerful Doppler radar to follow storms right down to your street. Just go to the App Store, search WBFF to get started.
Making headlines right now, a report from the Office of the Inspector General finds the city was charged more than $33,000 after it failed to suspend phone service after the election last November. Now, according to that report, the Department of Telecommunications provides 400 mobile phones to the city's Board of Elections. The phones are generally activated about a month before primary election and deactivated after the general election is over. However, the investigation revealed there was never a request from the Board of Elections to suspend service. The city has now gotten a refund. The IG is calling for a written procedure to be put in place.
The city is committing thousands of dollars to protecting abortion access in Baltimore. The mayor announcing Baltimore nonprofits are eligible for grants up to $30,000 each to be used to hire staff, increase access to in-person and telehealth appointments, and cover the cost of abortion services. The funds are the second round of grants the city is giving out in response to the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade last year.
The Brooklyn Homes Block Party has a long history in Baltimore. We'll talk with one resident about how it's changed.
Consumer confidence hits a 2-year high and U.S. supply chains dodge a bullet. I'm Atrell Nashar with how these developments could help stave off a recession.
And next, the duty to retreat is at the heart of the prosecution's case as we await a verdict in the Squeegee murder trial. We break down exactly what it means in different situations.
As we await the jury's verdict in the case of a Squeegee kid accused of killing driver Timothy Reynolds, arguments of self-defense and duty to retreat have been aspects of this trial. Alexa Ashwell continues our team coverage right now with a deeper dive into the laws in the state of Maryland. Alexa?
Okay, state self-defense laws differ by state. Here in Maryland, a person has a, quote, duty to retreat under certain circumstances. A local legal expert explains.
If someone has a firearm and they can reach out and hit you at a greater distance, you obviously would have less of a duty to retreat or turn your back on the person with a firearm to run away, for example. If someone has a bat or a knife and you're already 10 feet away from them and they can't reach out and touch you in that moment, but you still are defending yourself and you're in reasonable fear of imminent bodily harm, you would have at least a duty to attempt to retreat.
That example closely mirroring one of the key questions a jury is posed with in deciding the teen squeegee worker's fate in the Timothy Reynolds murder trial. Local attorney Kirk Nachman says the, quote, duty to retreat applies when someone is in public, including when in your car, and as you heard him just say, differs based on the facts of the situation. But what about when you might be inside your home or even your business? That answer at 5:30. Reporting live in downtown Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Alexa. For our full coverage on the Squeegee trial and the latest developments from the courthouse, head to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
UPS workers will not go on strike after the company reached a tentative agreement with the labor union leaders that includes higher pay and safer working conditions. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar has more on what this means for the economy ahead of announcement on interest rates from the Federal Reserve this week.
The U.S. economy dodging disaster Tuesday when UPS and the Teamsters Union, representing more than 340,000 of its workers, reached a deal that will keep trucks on the road and cargo planes in the air. A strike would have upended supply chains, threatening to undo progress that's been made on inflation and consumer confidence. The latter just reached a 2-year high, according to new data from the Conference Board.
I think consumers are definitely happier, not only now, but they're also thinking about the future.
The group's chief economist, Dana Peterson, says a lot of that has to do with the labor market.
Most people are working. People have experienced some kind of increase in their wages. Some people have quit and found better jobs. And certainly we've seen people being supported by leftover excess savings.
What's a boost for workers is acting as a headwind for the Federal Reserve. Tight labor market conditions helping to keep inflation high. On Tuesday, members kicked off their 2-day meeting that's expected to result in another quarter-point interest rate hike, which could mean the highest federal funds rate since 2001. What's more difficult to predict is whether Fed economists will update their predictions about there being the potential for a mild recession beginning later this year. But it's the National Bureau of Economic Research that's tasked with officially declaring a recession. And its chair, John Lipsky, says he's confident inflation will continue to moderate.
There are good reasons to think that this economy could avoid a recession, but there are also good reasons to think that growth is going to be slow.
That slowed growth and slowed demand are intentional effects of the Fed's interest rate hikes. An analysis by Wallet Hub finds an additional quarter-point increase this week would cost credit card holders about $1.7 billion over the next 12 months. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
Let's take a live look outside right now as we're tracking some severe weather. Storms are expected to move across Baltimore throughout the evening. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is here with the latest.
Yeah, we are tracking maybe another round of storms that could roll through. Some folks already seeing it south and east of the city, and now it looks like we're in a lull. But don't get lulled into complacency. You got to see weather alert, considering there could be another line that has more extremely heavy rain and, again, more potentially damaging winds and maybe even some hail. That would come, say, after about 5, 6 o'clock. There's still that severe thunderstorm watch in effect for the entire area, painted in here in red. Still right around Easton and Cambridge, there's a round of showers and storms. Actually, this is the stuff that came through Dundalk, Anne Arundel County, extreme southeastern Baltimore City earlier on this afternoon around lunchtime, continuing to push its way south and east. but I think there is more to come. Let's take a look at the radar on the wider scope, and you get a better picture of what's going on here. There's a lot of sunshine that's out to our west that's been building in, and still the disturbance that's causing all this has not moved east. So that means we have an unstable atmosphere, the potential of the gusty, damaging winds again forming, as well as that potential of some hail, and even, again, the risk of some localized flash flooding. We have a flood watch that continues just like the severe thunderstorm watch until 8 p.m. And this is mainly for the I-95 corridor. I think this is more so for some of those areas of poorer drainage like Baltimore City, Anne Arundel County, like Annapolis, where you got a lot of pavement and this stuff just cannot run off as fast as it falls. And when you're talking rainfall rates of 1 to 3, 2 to 4 inches an hour like we saw at Dundalk, this is when you start seeing the flooding issues. Did actually have a flood warning in effect for extreme southeastern Baltimore County, where we had 5 to 6 inches of rain in just a period of about a half hour to an hour that fell earlier on today. So again, the continued risk of some damaging wind gusts, maybe some large hail, and also that localized flash flooding threat. 83 right now. Mile 1 Tasicam's quiet. Winds variable at 6. So if you got to get out, this is the time to do it. Humidity at 57%, feels like temperature a little warmer than the actual temperature with building humidity. Again, those showers and thunderstorms through just after sunset tonight, and then it looks like some big heat building thereafter. Let's take a look at the future scan. Again, it looks pretty quiet through about 5 to 6 o'clock, but the bubbling convection or the thunderstorms, the reds, the yellows, the oranges, continue to come back by about 8 to 8:30 through about 9 o'clock. After that, should begin to go on the wane. And I think as we head toward about 10, 11 o'clock tonight, that's when things quiet down. So the 7-day forecast by tomorrow, we're in the low to mid 90s, 91. How about 98 on Thursday? Some of the hottest temperatures of the summer coming Thursday, Friday, up near 100. In fact, there's another slight risk, a level 2 of 5 risk of severe weather for Thursday, potentially with any storms that form there. Hopefully a cold front tries to come through over the weekend, which could push us closer to 85 to 90 into early on next week.
Jonathan, thank you. When the storms roll in, we want to see how they impact your communities. If safe to do so, take a picture or video and then head to foxbaltimore.com/chime in or scan the QR code on your screen right now to share pictures, videos, and more. Well, a parent is furious with the promotion of a new high-ranking member of the Baltimore County school system. The concerns over his history allowing defective buses to transport kids. And training camp is 1 day away. The latest on the Ravens as we inch closer to football season. Well, it is a sign the season is just around the corner. The Ravens reporting in person today, one day before training camp officially begins. Fox 45's Morgan Atzett was at the team's training facility in Owings Mills with the latest.
It's that time of the season when local sports media turns into the paparazzi. I'm talking training camp parking lot arrivals when we film players entering the building for the first time this season. Most of the Ravens have been here for a while, from rookies last week to quarterbacks and injured players. But this afternoon was the deadline for all veterans to report for training camp, which officially gets underway tomorrow on the field for practice number 1. Injured starters like outside linebacker Tyus Bowser, wide receiver Rashad Bateman were some of the early arrivals this morning. A more welcoming glance came from cornerback Pepe Williams. He's on the PUP along with Bateman, but could make his camp debut next week, competing for slot corner and cornerback depth. Outside linebacker Odafe Away and inside linebacker Roquan Smith arriving together right behind contract year player Patrick Queen. While this is only day 1, report day, this team already knows the significance of camp this season.
We've been a really good team for a long time, and some things have happened here or there, but you do look at our roster and there's a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. That's why there's a lot of excitement in this town, in this facility, and everywhere. So it's time for us to get to practice, work hard each and every day. That's really what it's all about.
Arrival day did bring us our first look at veteran running back Melvin Gordon. He joined the Ravens last week, and this was his first appearance at the team's facility on report day. Aside from 7 players who are injured, we will see the Ravens for the first time of the 2023 season tomorrow when training camp starts. Reporting in Owings Mills, I'm Morgan Atzett for Sports Unlimited.
Parents outraged over a promotion for someone they think ought to be fired. Why some are taking issue with the new chief operating officer for Baltimore County Schools. Someone who has planned Brooklyn Day block parties in the past weighs in on what the event has become. The latest as we await arrests in the tragic mass shooting.
3 weeks into the investigation, and still no one has been charged in the mass shooting at Brooklyn Homes.
The shooting this month, one of the worst mass shootings in the city's history. And tonight, we are getting some new insight into what goes into planning the annual Brooklyn Day block party.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us right now after speaking with a longtime resident. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Kai and Mary, Rosalie Pack lived in Brooklyn Homes for nearly 45 years. We sat down this afternoon, pulled out some of her old photo albums and flipped through the images and talked about previous Brooklyn Day events. She was the former president of the Tenant Council and was involved in planning almost every single event and party at this housing community during the time when she lived there, including planning Brooklyn Day. She says the previous events were always a family event with activities for kids, a parade, even a pageant. She says everything usually wrapped up around 5 o'clock, and the timing of those events very different from the ones we've recently seen when Brooklyn Day has taken place.
Brooklyn Day was the highlight of the year. We started off with the parade, then we had a beauty pageant. Sometimes we'd have entertainment, like somebody come along that can sing or do something. Gals didn't go at night. 5 o'clock and they was out of there. They didn't have to go home, but they had to get out of there.
Pack eventually moved out of Brooklyn Homes in 2015. She says there were a few different contributing factors, but the increased drug activity was on the list. At 5:30, you'll hear her describe what she was thinking when she first learned about this mass shooting and her hope as this investigation continues to play out. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Families of the victims of the Brooklyn Day shooting are mourning the loss of the 2 people killed, and they're now demanding justice 3 weeks into the investigation. Now, police haven't arrested or charged anyone for killing 2 young people and shooting 28 others at the big block party. Aaliyah Gonzalez was one of the 2 people killed in that shooting. Her grandmother and brother want accountability from Baltimore police. They say the police department should have known the party was taking place and protected the neighborhood.
How do you not know about an event that happens every year?
Even 2 police cars, if they were there, I'm almost certain this wouldn't happen.
Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley said department came up short in its initial response to the party, but says police are committed to finding those responsible. If you have any information about the shooting, you're asked to call Baltimore Police or Metro Crime Stoppers.
Well, some new details on a deadly Baltimore County crash. Police say on July 3rd, 75-year-old Bernard Emanuel was crossing the intersection at Dogwood and Rolling Road in Woodlawn when he was hit twice, first by an Acura, then by a second unknown vehicle. Emanuel was taken to the hospital where he died 3 days ago. The driver of the Acura stayed at the scene. The driver of the other car did not. Anybody with information is asked to call Baltimore County Police.
Maryland state troopers are trying to crack down on speeding. The department released new data showing they made more than 150 traffic stops and issued nearly 250 citations. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, there were more than 12,000 speeding-related crashes in 2021.
Baltimore County Schools has a new chief operating officer earning more than $250,000 a year, and it is a name some of you may know.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, that has some parents upset and confused.
Baltimore County Public Schools on July 1st got a new chief operating officer who will make $240,000 a year with an extra $1,000 monthly doctoral stipend. All in, it's a $250,000 a year job.
It's a joke.
And Baltimore County parents like Brandy Martin can't believe who the new superintendent, Dr. Miriam Yarbrough, picked for the job.
He got promoted, and now that I hear that, I'm really disgusted in the fact that who thought he needed a promotion? And what was he promoted off of? What exactly did he do to earn any of that?
They would never, ever. BCPS's new COO is Dr. Jess Grimm, a name that may sound familiar.
Dr. Grimm, my name is Chris Papps. I'm a reporter with Fox 45 News. My name is Chris Papps with Fox 45 News.
Dr. Grimm, in late 2021, was the director of the Department of Transportation for Baltimore County Schools. when it became embroiled in a major scandal.
One of your mechanics signed it saying the defects had been repaired, sir. They weren't repaired. Why won't you answer this question for parents? You are the whistleblower?
I am.
This whistleblower, a former bus mechanic, came forward to Project Baltimore.
There is a lot of things wrong that the county just sweeps under the rug.
With his help, we obtained pictures and inspection reports that showed buses with broken parts were passing inspection and carrying students.
Ready? Okay. Put your locks on.
Students like Martin's son, who uses a wheelchair and back in 2022 was often unable to ride the bus to school because the wheelchair lift was broken. Martin tried to get help, but says Dr. Grimm was not responsive. Following our reporting in 2022, the Maryland State Department of Transportation inspected all roughly 800 Baltimore County school buses and found 145 defects. The buses were repaired, and MDOT issued a list of recommendations to Baltimore County schools to better improve inspections. And around that same time, Dr. Grimm moved to a different position in the school system, which came with a $21,000 a year pay cut.
You see, Grimm went from earning $173,000 a year as a director of transportation to $152,000 a year as the manager of business operations. And now he'll be earning $240,000 a year as the chief operating officer. And all of this happened in a time span of about 1 year.
This has been torture, not only to him, but also to myself.
But it wasn't just bus inspections that plagued the Department of Transportation under Grimm's leadership.
He's not safe. He's not safe.
Parents came to Project Baltimore with concerns about their children's safety and how the school system handled discipline on school buses. Those complaints were echoed by former school bus driver Alicia Matthews, who told Fox 45 in February 2022 that student behavior was out of control.
Even the water bottles, where I'm driving down the street and a water bottle is under my foot, where the kids were hanging outside the bus from the mirrors.
The other part is retention.
But even after all the problems, Dr. Yarbrough, soon after becoming the new superintendent, promoted Grimm to chief operating officer.
I would love to know what he was promoted off of and what he did to earn that amount of money.
You would want Dr. Yarbrough to explain that?
Absolutely, in detail.
So we asked Dr. Yarbrough for an interview to discuss why she chose Dr. Grimm for a high-level position in her cabinet. After all, it was just a few weeks ago that she said this in her first press conference as superintendent.
Do you believe in transparency, and will you make yourself available to the media when issues do arise?
So I absolutely believe in transparency. I believe in making myself available, like today, and there will be more opportunities to come.
But Dr. Yarbrough is not making herself available to discuss her new COO. Instead, we received this short statement saying Grimm was not removed from his previous position as a director of transportation, and that Baltimore County Public Schools cannot and does not discuss confidential personnel matters.
Next appointment is Dr. Jess Grimm. He is attending this evening. Please, you are standing to be recognized.
But Grimm's appointment is not confidential. Dr. Yarbrough publicly announced it at a board meeting.
His previous experience includes manager of business operations, principal of Chesapeake High.
She even read his resume.
He has 26.7 years of experience in Baltimore County. Congratulations, Dr. Grimm.
His promotion is outright disgusting and beyond a disappointment and disgrace. Literally, like, he doesn't deserve a dime, and he doesn't deserve a promotion one bit. If anything, he deserves to be fired.
Why won't you answer this question for parents? The new superintendent's cabinet is made up of 6 people. 3 of them were cabinet members who worked under the previous superintendent, Dr. Darrell Williams. The other 3, including Grimm, were Baltimore County Schools employees who were promoted. In other words, Dr. Yarbrough did not bring anyone in from outside of Baltimore County to be on her cabinet. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
With the return to school just around the corner, more parents are wondering if a switch to homeschooling could be what's best for their kids. Fox 45's Patrice Sanders spoke with an expert to weigh the pros and the cons.
Homeschooling is growing in popularity across the country. If you've thought about it for your family but wondered if it's something that you can really handle, especially if you also work, we asked an expert. Natalie Mangrum is the CEO of the Maryland Teacher Tutors. She says there are a lot of benefits to homeschooling, but there are things to consider to see if it's right for you.
I think there are a lot of different reasons why parents choose homeschooling, especially post-pandemic. They want more flexibility, so a lot of parents like that they can take a vacation with their kids, they can customize the planning and the learning for their kids. Parents know their kids best, so they can move as quickly or as slowly as their child needs to, where in a public school or private school setting, the teacher is kind of depending on all the students to be able to move along. Let's see what else. The ability to focus on personal values for some people is really important. It used to just be that homeschooling was for people who were faith-based, but now it's maybe a parent really cares about social emotional learning or financial literacy, and they have the control to be able to really highlight what's important.
She also says working parents can take advantage of homeschooling because of homeschooling co-ops like hers, where certified teachers come in to teach certain concepts to the students in addition to what parents are teaching. You can find more about their services at Maryland Teacher Tutors on all social media. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
The Fox 45 News is your back-to-school headquarters. We'll compile things to help busy parents get their kids ready for school. Click the QR code on your screen to check out all of our stories that we've posted, or go to foxbaltimore.com/back-to-school. Airlines are trying to crack down on a trick that saves you money. The new battle over skip lagging.
Sweating over utility bills as the heat wave expands, the challenges families nationwide are facing to keep cool.
And we remain under weather alert with severe thunderstorm watches out. We're in a lull now, but that is all going to be changing later on this evening. We're tracking the storms, and as your back to school authority, take a look. We're only 35 days. We're tracking the first day of school too. 35 days from the first day of school. Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Harford, Howard, and Anne Arundel. 43 days in Carroll, Cecil, and Kent counties. We're tracking those strong storms coming up in my weather authority forecast.
The scientists say recent heat waves around the globe are being made worse by climate change. According to a recent study, the ongoing heat waves in parts of Europe, North America, and China are between 1.8 and 4.5 degrees warmer than expected because of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Now, the study doesn't claim human-caused climate change is the sole cause of the heat waves, but does say it's a factor. Well, with the increased temperatures nationwide, more of your money is likely going toward keeping cool. Dee Gatton is looking at the dangers for families who can't afford to keep their ACs running.
I spoke to several residents, and I'm told in some areas families don't have any AC in their home. This is a critical issue with more than 100 people dying in heat waves in the U.S. and India so far this summer.
It's like hotter than it's ever been before, and we've definitely been using our AC.
The heat isn't the only thing making people sweat. At the beginning of July, the National Energy Assistance Directors Association estimated that the cost of home energy will increase by nearly 12% this summer to an average of nearly $580, up from last summer. Some programs to help low-income residents are also struggling to keep up with demand.
Right now, with the heat soaring, the electric bills are going through the roof. And we're finding the need for AC higher than it's ever been. The more people that are in need, the fewer funds per family are going to be available.
Federal funding for low-income home energy assistance programs are running out of funds after helping families pay for high home heating costs, according to the National Energy Assistance Directors Association.
I think everyone is agreeing that the summer is really hot and that, their utility bill is definitely higher than last year's. Simply keeping their house cool. It's not even like keeping it cold. Just to keep it cool has been a lot.
Earlier this month, the White House announced additional measures to protect against extreme heat and modernize the electric grid. There are ways to help cut costs, such as covering windows, and if looking for a long-term investment, planting more trees. Also, ask your electric company if they're offering any monthly discounts. You may qualify for a reduced rate. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Dee Gatton.
Let's take a live look outside right now as we're tracking some severe weather in the area. Storms are expected to move across Baltimore throughout the evening. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is here with the very latest. Jonathan?
Yeah, and right now we are under kind of a little bit of a lull, Kai, after some really nasty weather around lunchtime just south and east of the city, rolling off into the Chesapeake Bay. Still a severe thunderstorm watch is in play until 8 p.m. this evening for the entire area. This is because we expect more activity to fire. There's still some stuff that's just trying to edge into southern Anne Arundel County and then down around Milford, Delaware, south of Easton. There's also a round of showers and thunderstorms that way. Outside of that, that's kind of the only game in town for now. But there's a lot of sunshine kind of percolating our atmosphere. You can still see that there's a few cells trying to build back south toward Harrisonburg, Danville, Virginia, out west, just north of Pittsburgh. That energy still out there, so that continues to move eastbound. And as we head into later on this evening, maybe just in the next hour or two, we'll start seeing some of those showers and storms build again. Flood watch in effect still also until 8 p.m., just like the severe thunderstorm watch. That's up and down the 95 corridor. Some of those areas of poorer drainage, like here in Baltimore City, Annapolis, where you have more cement, more concrete, you're going to have a harder time draining off some of that heavy rain. So you may have some flooding issues through the end of the p.m. commute as well. So through 8 p.m., that's our main storm threat. High damaging winds, the biggest threat. Could see some hail. Also, the potential of heavy rain and even some flooding. And we've even seen up to about 5 to 6 inches of rain out of some of these, at least radar indicated. Not too far from here in Middle River, where we're taking a look from the yacht club out east. Gorgeous look, although you could see some of these big clouds billowing. Places south and east of Dundalk got anywhere between about 3 to 6 inches of rain out of some of these storms as they came through earlier. And there could be some more, again, just like that pop up into the remainder of the evening commute and into the early overnight. It's warm. It's turning more humid. Some of these little yellow lines moving through, those are little disturbances in the atmosphere providing for these risks of showers and storms. Maybe some more coming for the end of the week, but by then temperatures could be threatening records. So building heat on top of all of this through the end of the week. So there are your showers and thunderstorms through about 6:15 through about 8:30. scraping right by the city down to the eastern shore. And maybe even through about 9, 10 o'clock, some leftover activity. That then diminishes. And overnight into early tomorrow morning, most of this moves east and quiets down. And the big heat begins to build. 90 to 95 for Wednesday. How about 95 to 100 on Thursday and Friday? Some computer models on Friday are saying triple-digit heat. That would be the first time that we did that this year. Our record for the day on Friday, by the way, is 103. So we may miss that, but it's still going to be very hot and dangerously hot and humid in combination. Showers and storms for the weekend. That's a cold front, and hopefully a little drier, not as hot into early next week.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, sparks fly within the courtroom as we await a decision. We'll have an update in the trial of a Squeegee kid accused of killing a Baltimore driver. And more than 3/4 of travelers get stressed on vacations where they're trying to relax. The steps you can take to make sure your trip goes off without a hitch. The airlines say travel is back to pre-pandemic levels, but there's trouble in the air as staffing shortages remain an issue. The National Desk Angela Brown explains why that's not the only problem.
Unexpected travel troubles getting under the skin of travelers.
Well, I was supposed to be in Milwaukee yesterday, and I'm in Green Bay today.
Bankrate found 77% of travelers plagued by travel problems, 53% higher prices, 25% running into longer wait times, 24% poor customer service, 23% canceled or disrupted plans. Ted Rossman from Bankrate says your credit card could help.
A lot of credit cards have valuable travel insurance perks, things like trip cancellation and interruption insurance, maybe also some protection if your luggage is lost or delayed.
Travel demand is soaring. Look at this chart from the TSA. The TSA is processing more travelers so far this year than last, but the airline industry is not back to full strength, dealing with a critical staffing shortage.
These shortages just doesn't seem like they're ever going to end with pilots and other airline workers. Are things getting any better?
Airlines are reporting record profits, which I think is part of this story. They really cut to the bone during the pandemic. And now that demand has recovered, I think sometimes airlines are hesitant to add too much staff because that's cutting into profitability.
Another hurdle for staffing involves training. It takes years, for example, to become an airline pilot. The FAA is trying to patch up the problems. One way is by allowing airlines to cut back on their services at 3 major New York City airports. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Well, this summer, the airlines are trying to crack down on something called skip lagging. What is that, you ask? Well, I'm going to tell you. Skip lagging or hidden city ticketing involves booking a flight where you know there's a layover, but the layover is actually the passenger's final destination. In some cases, booking a connecting flight, which includes a layover, may actually reduce your ticket price. So that's why people would do it. While this has been a practice for years, many websites creating itineraries around skip lagging are now popping up, frustrating the airlines.
Many airlines, not all, but many will outline in their contract of carriage, which is basically their terms and conditions, that practices like this are banned. Airlines can have any sorts of rules that they can impose on passengers. And one of them that they'll typically say is that passengers must take the full itinerary.
Well, something to keep in mind if you are going to try and take advantage of skip lagging, don't check your bag. Typically, your bags are checked to your final destination. So if you're cutting off your second flight, you're going to be in one place, your bag in another place. But coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, the Ravens gearing up for another season with Lamar Jackson. The other anticipated players you should keep an eye on as training camp begins. And the controversial floating border barrier in Texas, the center of a DOJ lawsuit. The heated back and forth between the White House and Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Breaking news, airs a verdict in the Squeegee kid trial.
We're going to get right to Rebecca Pryor with the very latest coming up.
And Fox 45 News continues to follow the trial of the Squeegee kid accused of shooting and killing a Baltimore driver. We'll have the latest.
Plus, over 3 weeks since Baltimore's largest mass shooting and still no arrest for the actual shooting. We speak with a longtime Baltimore resident on what the Brooklyn Day block party used to look like.
And one round of thunderstorms through, another one to come. We've still got severe weather watches out, and we're under weather alert. I'm timing it out hour by hour in my Weather Authority forecast.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
This is natural in a case of this complexity.
Like the general public, we're left to wait.
The jury continues to deliberate in the trial of the Squeegee kid accused of shooting and killing a Baltimore driver last summer. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. We are hoping for a verdict today, but no verdict yet. The judge issuing an order to the jury to keep going after a note was brought forward asking for the definition of a mistrial.
Now the fate of that 16-year-old is still being decided by a jury. Now he could face first-degree murder charges.
And we have extensive team coverage tonight covering all the angles of this trial.
In just a few minutes, Maxine Stryker takes a look back at the Squeegee crisis in Baltimore and how he got to this point.
But we begin with Rebecca Pryor. She's been in court following this case since it began last week. Has the latest developments for us. Rebecca?
Will the jury come to a decision or will they deadlock? That's the question on the minds of many inside the Mitchell courthouse today. Around 2:30 this afternoon, the jury came to the judge and asked for the meaning of a mistrial. But instead of answering that question, the judge sent them back to work and told them it's too soon to quit. After an explosive week-long trial in the case of a teenage squeegee worker accused of murder, all anyone can do now is watch and wait.
It's obviously hard.
Thuru Vignaraja is representing the family of Timothy Reynolds, a father, a brother, and a son who prosecutors say was gunned down by Tavon Scott from about 10 feet away at the corner of Light and Conway. An autopsy revealing Reynolds was shot once in the head, chest, and 3 times in the back.
They've waited a long time for justice. They can wait a little longer.
But presumably no one is more anxiously awaiting an outcome than the 16-year-old defendant.
He's on pins and needles, as they say.
Scott's attorney, Warren Brown, arguing the prosecution failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt Scott was the killer, and law enforcement failed to thoroughly investigate other suspects.
His whole future hangs in the balance.
Midway through the day, the judge receiving a note from the jury asking for the definition of a mistrial. The judge sending them back to the drawing board with a message of her own. You must consult with one another and continue to deliberate to reach an agreement, she said. The defense quickly going from confident.
I don't think they're going to get hung up at all. This is a very smart jury.
To uncertain.
I think that may have been an exaggeration yesterday. You got 12 strangers that are in this room. You don't know really what was important to them, what wasn't important to them, how they perceived the evidence.
Some of the charges up for debate: first-degree murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter, and illegal possession of a handgun.
Those are hard questions for anyone to wrestle with.
And if no unanimous decision can be made,
then it's up to the state whether they want to retry this case or not.
Will the state retry this case?
That's really a question for the state. What I can tell you is that the family is going to fight as long and as hard as it takes to make sure that justice is delivered here.
Now, I did ask the city state's attorney's office directly today, do you plan on retrying this case should it end in a mistrial? They told me no comment. Outside of the Mitchell courthouse, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
As Rebecca reported, there is a chance this case ends in a mistrial. Fox 45 News at 4 o'clock spoke with attorney Jeremy Eldridge on what today's developments could mean going forward.
If the judge decides to declare a mistrial, meaning we have no unanimous verdict, what would happen next is that the matter would have to be rescheduled for another trial date. The other thing to note would be, for instance, the defendant, if detained like in this case, could potentially ask for a bail review and ask to be home. There are different rules regarding speedy trial. So, for instance, the speedy trial that you're entitled to within 180 days doesn't apply after a retrial. So the rules change a little bit. But inarguably, what would happen is we would just see another trial date, and we'd say a second iteration of this trial, but with the public having a much better idea of how strong the case is.
Well, many say Reynolds' death was a breaking point for the city after years of squeegee-related issues on the streets of Baltimore. It even prompted a new plan from city leaders. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker has a look at how we got here.
Baltimore City intersections where squeegee kids were once commonplace are mostly free of the window washers today as jurors deliberate in the deadly case of Timothy Reynolds. The same day Reynolds was murdered, police say they fielded multiple calls involving squeegee workers, including one from State Senator Antonio Hayes, who said he was approached by a group of kids at the same intersection and assaulted. But the troubled history of squeegee workers dates back decades, frustration mounting over the years, leading to one violent encounter after another. In January 2020, a 52-year-old man was assaulted outside of his vehicle in downtown Baltimore. Shocking video sent to Fox 45 appears to show the man being hit repeatedly by a squeegee kid. The following month, 2 Baltimore City police officers were attacked by 2 men after receiving a complaint for squeegee workers. In August, another attack was caught on camera, allegedly showing squeegee kids pelt a driver's car with rocks. Then in April 2021, a clash came with a death threat at MLK and Washington Boulevard. A woman in the car with her 2 children says when she told the squeegee workers no, things took a violent turn for the worse.
He comes and throws the whole bottle of soap suds on my car.
In October, a woman was left bruised and bloodied at the intersection of President and Lombard after she says she was assaulted by a squeegee kid.
Next thing I know, he is in my car beating me in the face with a stick.
At that same intersection the week prior, another man was allegedly hit multiple times by squeegee kids.
He pool cued and popped me right in the face.
And last October, a Baltimore County physician was robbed by a squeegee kid with police nearby. As the man handed the boy $2 bills, the squeegee kid reportedly said, "No, I want more," and grabbed the driver's wallet, taking about $300 in cash.
I never thought that he would grab my wallet and run like a little punk.
And that wasn't the first time squeegee kids have been accused of stealing money. There were several reports of the kids scamming people out of money using the Cash App last year. Police even going as far as to warn drivers of the theft in November. Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
That brings us to our question of the day. Do you believe there's still a squeegee problem in Baltimore? 97% of those who voted say yes. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Well, taking you live across Maryland tonight, we are under a weather alert. Strong storms are expected to hit parts of our area in the next few hours.
We are seeing some sunshine around Baltimore just the same.
But we want to get right over to Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers with a look at how this will all play out in the next few hours. We could have sunshine here all night, though, until the sun sets, I should say, Jonathan.
Yeah, Kai and Mary, some of the cells may kind of wait more so till just as the sun is setting, maybe 7, 8 o'clock, and we're going to track that on the future scan coming up in just a moment. Severe thunderstorm watch, excuse me, is in effect for the entire area. That lasts until 8 p.m. You'll see that there's not a whole lot until you get way down toward Chesapeake Beach. That's the first wave of rain and thunderstorms that came through. Actually put down some at least radar indicated amounts of 5 to 7 inches of rain around the area of Dundalk and south and east towards the bay. Flash flood watch, therefore, still in effect until 8 p.m. up and down the 95 corridor. Storm threats, the biggest threat going to be wind. Could have some damaging winds, but not far behind there could be some hail and also some heavy rain. Thankfully, the tornado risk is pretty low with this, but take a look. After we get through this little lull, starting to see some of those cells filling in once again into early on this evening. I'm going to be tracking those all the way through the end of the afternoon commute on into the overnight hours and letting you know also when we could be threatening 100 degrees around here. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Remember, you can track severe storms even when we're not on the air by downloading the free Fox 45 Weather Authority app. Go to your app store and search WBFF to get started.
And as the storms roll through, we want to see what it's looking like in your neighborhood. Scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you to foxbaltimore.com/chime in. And you can upload your pictures and videos. When you take them, please be safe out there. It is powered by Stacklock. Mayor Brandon Scott is set to nominate a new fire chief tomorrow. That position has been open since former Chief Niles Ford resigned back in December after a report detailing the failures that led up to the deaths of 3 firefighters in a vacant home fire in January of 2022. It is not clear who the mayor will tap for the role. The announcement is expected at 10 a.m. We will have complete coverage on air and online.
I'm Morgan Atza in Owings Mills, where training camp is about to get underway tomorrow. But first, arrivals. That's next on Sports Unlimited.
Plus, it's going to be a scorching hot week as we head toward the weekend. How you can stay safe as the temperatures soar. Several new approaches along the southern border, now the center of debate in Washington. I'm Christine Frizzell with some new developments.
It's that time of the season when local sports media turns into the paparazzi. I'm talking training camp parking lot arrivals when we film players entering the building for the first time this season. Most of the Ravens have been here for a while, from rookies last week to quarterbacks and injured players. But this afternoon was the deadline for all veterans to report for training camp, which officially gets underway tomorrow on the field for practice number 1. Injured starters like outside linebacker Tyus Bowser, wide receiver Rashad Bateman were some of the early arrivals this morning. A more welcoming glance came from cornerback Pepe Williams. He's on the PUP along with Bateman, but could make his camp debut next week, competing for slot corner and cornerback depth. Outside linebacker Odafe Away and inside linebacker Roquan Smith arriving together right behind contract year player Patrick Queen. While this is only day 1, report day, this team already knows the significance of camp this season.
We've been a really good team for a long time, and some things have happened here or there, but you do look at our roster and there's a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. That's why there's a lot of excitement in this town, in this facility, and everywhere. So it's time for us to get to practice, work hard each and every day. That's really what it's all about.
Arrival day did bring us our first look at veteran running back Melvin Gordon. He joined the Ravens last week, and this was his first appearance at the team's facility on report day. Aside from 7 players who are injured, we will see the Ravens for the first time of the 2023 season tomorrow when training camp starts. Reporting in Owings Mills, I'm Morgan Adsett for Sports Unlimited.
Well, taking a live look at the Inner Harbor tonight, we are under a weather alert. Severe storms are set to roll through parts of the state in the next few hours. We're going to get over to Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers with the latest on our forecast.
Yeah, we had one round of storms. It looks like we are not done just yet. There's still a severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 8 p.m. Had some almost 6 inches of rain, at least radar indicated around Dundalk today. So not everybody seeing it, not yet, but I think more folks are going to be getting in on some of the severe storms later on today. Let's go ahead and take a look at the HD radar. And this is where we're tracking the storms. Excuse me, you can actually see down toward Calvert County as well as southern Anne Arundel. There are a few showers just beginning to percolate and pop once again. Severe thunderstorm watches, in fact, until, again, 8 p.m. for the entire area, still in it. North of Cockeysville, also a little bit of rain there, and then up toward Bel Air, just north of Perryville, up towards the PA line. There's some showers there, too. Now, we take a look at the national view of the radar. Get a better picture of the system. There's more stuff, again, that's percolating and popping out to the west. It's a little disturbance that's trying to push into this now becoming warmer, becoming more humid atmosphere. Up and down the 95 corridor, yes, there is a flood watch that continues in effect. So some of those areas of poor drainage, especially some of those urbanized centers like Baltimore City down to Annapolis, when you put down, say, 3 to 6 inches of rain in a very quick period of time, and this did have warnings out with it earlier, it's very hard for that to run off very quickly, especially in those areas with a lot of pavement and concrete. So keep that in mind for the late commute. There could be some flooding as well. As I mentioned, 3 to 6 inches of rain in that area in red around Dundalk earlier on this afternoon. That now has abated, but still the energy is there through about 8, 9 o'clock tonight. So damaging wind gusts, the biggest threat could have some potential large hail, as well as a localized flooding threat too, as this comes in. Out in the distance, as we take a look east on the Mile 1 Taos Cam, you see the tops of some of those thunderstorms. Right now it's sunny in Towson, 87 degrees, winds are calm, feels like 91. We're back actually to our high for the day with the warmth building, the humidity building, and still some of these yellow dotted lines around. Those are the disturbances that kind of peel up some of those thunderstorms, and another round could come toward and just after sunset, then building huge heat and humidity, maybe some of the hottest air that we've seen all year long coming for the end of the week. There are those spot storms building in through about 6, 7 o'clock, and some more by about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Another round moving towards the city about 8:30 to 9. By about 10, 11 o'clock, those continue to diminish, and then things quiet down overnight. So the forecast for tonight, 67, becomes mostly clear with patchy fog after the evening storms, and some of those strong still move out. Tomorrow, it's a hot day with a high 91. Code orange air quality alert from Baltimore City to points north and east up towards Cecil County. So bad air quality there, and then it's just plain old hot and humid. Thursday, Friday actually could have another risk of severe weather on Thursday if you get a pop-up storm there. High 98, 99 with the record standing at 103 on Friday. Cold front gradually bleeds through over the weekend with showers and storms, turns less humid into early next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, looking ahead to the rest of the week, as Jonathan mentioned, it is set to be hot with temperatures in the upper 90s, some days getting close to 100 degrees. Across the nation, millions of Americans are under weather alerts. As the temperatures soar, health experts are urging people to be on the lookout for certain symptoms.
You might have a racing heart, headaches, fatigue, nausea. Then after that follows heat stroke, and that's the most dangerous one. That's the one that we really want to get that patient to the emergency department.
The CDC has tips to stay hydrated in the extreme heat. First, drink before you feel thirsty. The CDC says by the time you feel thirsty, you're already starting to get dehydrated. If you're going to be out in the heat, the CDC recommends drinking 1 cup of water every 15 to 20 minutes. But don't go overboard. You shouldn't drink more than 48 ounces of water per hour. And now turning to the crisis at the border tonight, a controversial rule recently put into place by the Biden administration has been blocked by a federal judge. The ruling, which the White House has 2 weeks to appeal, centers on restrictions for those seeking asylum in this country. It comes down 1 day after the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas for installing a new floating barrier in the Rio Grande. National correspondent Christine Frizzau has a closer look at this evolving debate.
That floating buoy barrier sparking yet another political debate over the border.
The one person that is sowing chaos is Governor Abbott. That's what he continues to do, political stunts in an inhumane way.
Governor Greg Abbott blaming the White House.
The Biden administration needs to enforce the laws already on the books that stop people from crossing illegally.
The crisis unfolding at a time the number of migrants illegally crossing at the southern border has fallen sharply from the month before. The region deemed eerily quiet by the Washington Post, which credits the policy shift on asylum seekers by the White House, which now requires those wanting to come to the United States to first fill out the CBP-1 app and to first ask for asylum in a country they pass through along the way. And if you don't, you will be ineligible to ask for asylum for 5 years.
We are committed to processing people in a safe, orderly, and humane manner, but also
quickly delivering consequences to those who do not have a legal basis to remain in the United States.
But critics say those policies, which have resulted in 541,000 migrants entering the country through the Immigration Parole Authority, are also not being enforced, including new accounts of immigrant advocates telling those who get caught between the ports of entry to just, quote, VR, which stands for voluntary removal, a message Mark Morgan says the cartels are sharing with migrants as well.
Come back to Mexico, go 100 yards to your right, get online, fill out the CBP1 app, wait your turn. You're still going to be allowed to come to port of entry, process, and release in the United States.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is set to testify here on Capitol Hill Wednesday and be grilled by some Democrats who will argue the new policies violate U.S. asylum laws, and by Republicans insisting that dangerous journey migrants make, including mounting cases of sexual assaults for girls as young as 12, make this new system far less safe and humane. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
My biggest question is why would they take it upon themselves to do it on, instead of having it at the community center? Too many things can happen, especially in this day and age.
A Baltimore resident speaking out following the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, how she describes the community event years ago. Plus the debate over self-defense and the duty to retreat. We analyze both sides in the trial of the Squeegee kid accused of shooting and killing a Baltimore man.
I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington. Coming up, White House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is ramping up threats of impeaching President Joe Biden.
Developing tonight, Hunter Biden is set to plead guilty tomorrow to 2 misdemeanor tax charges and enter a diversion program to drop a felony gun charge. Those opposed are asking the judge to reject the plea deal. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has details.
You've got IRS whistleblowers.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy elevating threats of impeaching President Biden.
When more of this continues to unravel, it rises to the level of impeachment inquiry.
These comments are the most direct yet from the Speaker regarding impeachment. According to McCarthy, the House dug up enough evidence through their investigations into allegations the Bidens were selling political influence to foreigners to warrant a deeper probe into the president's role.
What an impeachment inquiry does, it gives us the apex of the power of Congress for Republicans and Democrats to gather the information that they need.
Republicans have obtained financial records showing the president's son, Hunter Biden, and brother James Biden received millions from China and Romania. Documents show cuts set aside for someone called the big guy. Multiple sources allege the big guy is Joe Biden. The White House standing by the president's statement he had nothing to do with these deals.
The president was never in business with his son. I just don't have anything else to add.
Former Biden family business associate, however, saying the president had direct involvement.
Hunter and Jim Biden were paranoid about keeping Joe Biden's involvement secret.
What are the big differences that an impeachment inquiry can achieve that, say, the House Oversight investigation might not be able to?
When that shifts to associating the word impeachment with the process, the powers don't necessarily change, and they might give the committee additional powers, but not necessarily. It sets the House and the Senate on a particular path that we hope we never have to go through as a country.
Another Biden business raising questions, Hunter Biden's artwork. He sold at least $1.3 million worth. A national art critic telling Politico it is absolutely 100% certain that what is being sold is the Biden name. One of the buyers, LA-based investor Elizabeth Naftali, receiving a presidential appointment from Joe Biden 8 months later. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Still ahead, Fox 45 News continues to demand answers surrounding the communication failures during the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. We take a look at how the event has changed over the years. Plus, was it self-defense? That's a big question in the trial of the Squeegee kid accused of killing a Baltimore driver. We analyze both sides of the argument. And taking a live look from the Ocean City boardwalk, a dark sky there. Look at that as storms begin to roll in there. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers continues our weather alert coverage.
Owls didn't go at night. 5 o'clock and they was out of there. They didn't have to go home, but they had to get out of there.
Well, Rosalie Pack helped organize Brooklyn Day for years while living in Brooklyn homes. She's opening her photo albums to show the city what the event used to be more than 3 weeks after the mass shooting at this year's party.
That's right. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live right now after sitting down with her. So, Mackenzie, Pack has found memories of the summer celebration. What does that tell us about this annual event?
Yeah, Kai and Mary, Rosalie lights up when you ask her about Brooklyn Day. She has a lot of memories of the previous events. She says the event used to bring families and there were plenty of activities for all of the kids involved. But now she wants to know why this event wasn't being held at the community center, where she says it used to be held and there was plenty of support for the event to take place. These photo albums are full of memories.
Those were the good old days. Stuff like that didn't happen in Brooklyn.
Rosalie Pack called Brooklyn Homes her home for 44 years, and she was in charge of almost every party.
We used to serve Thanksgiving dinner. We would have Halloween parties. We had, of course, the Brooklyn Day.
Smiling faces, families, a parade.
Brooklyn Day was the highlight of the year.
She says when she was in charge, she worked with the other people in Brooklyn Homes, as well as the Housing Authority of Baltimore City, to block off streets and organize the massive event.
Like I said, it's just one big old fun-filled day. 5 o'clock and they was out of there. They didn't have to go home, but they had to get out of there.
Packing up by 5, very different than the recent years of Brooklyn Day, partying stretching well into the night. One newspaper clipping, a little faded by time, shows former Mayor Kurt Schmoke at Brooklyn Day. The date, July 13th, 1988. 35 years later, to the date.
Good evening and welcome to the Public Safety and Government Operations Committee meeting.
City Council demanding to know how 30 people could have been shot, 2 young people killed in Baltimore's largest mass shooting.
Too many unanswered questions. Who did it?
Pack eventually moved out of Brooklyn Homes in 2015. She says she had some issues with management and a desire for a home with a balcony, but also drug activity and crime creeping into the housing development over the years.
Drugs had been going on for probably a year before I knew anything about it.
Fox 45 News uncovering the man who rented a U-Haul at this year's Brooklyn Day and rented the supplies for the party, the same person facing multiple charges accused of dealing drugs in Brooklyn Homes this year. Pack says the organization of the party now is part of the problem.
My biggest question is why would they take it upon themselves to do it on, instead of having it at the community center? It's a lot of responsibility. And having it in the community center, you've got the manager, you've got the service coordinator, you've got housing authority, because some of them always came. Having it off-site, I just don't see as a good idea.
Sources tell Fox 45 News investigators found bullet casings on scene from as many as 16 guns. More than 3 weeks later, Baltimore police have not arrested anyone for actually pulling the triggers. Even though it's been a decade since Pack lived in Brooklyn, what happened there hits home for her.
Just so sad.
And she says she's hopeful someone who was there to celebrate the community speaks up about what they saw during an event with such history.
It's going to hit home. Something's going to hit them personally, and then they're going to sing like a songbird. That's what I'm hoping.
Now, the Housing Authority of Baltimore City says that the tenant council hasn't been active for a few years. That's the organization that would usually help plan an event like Brooklyn Day. But now HAB says they do have some people who say they're ready to participate. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, in the meantime, families of the victims of the Brooklyn Day shooting continue to mourn their loss and call for justice 3 weeks now into the investigation. Police have yet to arrest or charge anyone for killing 2 young people and injuring 28 others at one of the biggest mass shootings in Baltimore's history. Aaliyah Gonzalez was one of the 2 people killed in the shooting. Her grandmother and brother calling for accountability from Baltimore police, saying the department should have known the party was taking place and acted to protect the neighborhood.
How do you not know about an event that happens every year?
Even 2 police cars, if they were there, I'm almost certain this wouldn't happen.
Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley has said his department came up short in its initial response to the Brooklyn Day party, but he is committed to finding those responsible.
As police continue to search for people responsible, many are focusing on the violence among juveniles. Young people have continuously been at the center of the crime crisis this year as suspects and as victims. Fox 45's Megan Gillen speaks to a law enforcement expert on what it means for the future of the city.
In Baltimore City, a surge in youth violence is overshadowing a decline in overall homicides. Law enforcement expert Mari Richards weighing in on what this means in the crime fight.
The surge in youth violence is very frightening because it really shows what the future is going to look like.
Many people calling out illegal guns for drawing some of that youth violence. What can be the answer here? How can we stop that?
Well, the illegal guns is really a red herring. Criminals will always be able to get guns. The question is, what makes a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid able to shoot people and kill strangers?
According to last month's public safety meeting, Baltimore police report 16 young people between the ages of 10 and 17 have been arrested for homicide this year. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Well, we are still waiting to learn the fate of the Squeegee kid accused of shooting and killing a Baltimore driver. The jury not coming up with a verdict today. After day 2, they will continue deliberations in the morning. Meantime, arguments of self-defense and duty to retreat have been big aspects of this murder trial. Alexa Ashwell joins us live with a deeper dive into the law here in Maryland. Alexa?
Yes, Mary, self-defense laws differ by state. Here in Maryland, there is no stand your ground law, rather a duty to retreat under certain circumstance. Self-defense laws justify a person's use of lethal force in order to prevent imminent death or serious bodily harm. Maryland is one of nearly a dozen states in the U.S. that imposes a duty to retreat. Law expert Kirk Nachman explains.
Before you can exercise a fatal level of self-defense, you have to at least have an attempt or be able to attempt to retreat from the situation.
Nachman says the duty to retreat applies when someone is in public, including when in your car, and differs based on the facts of the situation.
If someone has a firearm and they can reach out and hit you at a greater distance, you obviously would have less of a duty to retreat or turn your back on the person with a firearm to run away. For example, if someone has a bat or a knife and you're already 10 feet away from them and they can't reach out and touch you in that moment, but you still are defending yourself and you're in reasonable fear of imminent bodily harm, you would have at least a duty to attempt to retreat.
That example closely mirroring one of the key questions a jury was posed with in deciding the teen squeegee worker's fate in the Timothy Reynolds murder trial. But what about when not in public, rather inside your home or business? Nachman says Maryland has a castle doctrine.
In other words, your home is your castle. You don't have any duty to retreat in your castle. The assumption is that, you're defending your home from an intruder and the aggressor is coming into your home or business.
My heart is beating just thinking of it. That scenario happening to this local store owner. Earlier this year, the woman shot an armed robber who investigators say entered her shop and held her at gunpoint.
He came after me and we got into a scuffle.
Nachman says knowing the law and your rights is crucial. And going back to the Squeegee teen workers murder trial, as we heard from Rebecca, jury deliberations will continue tomorrow. Reporting live in downtown Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Well, we, of course, are in weather alert mode tonight. Storms are set to roll through parts of the state shortly. Behind us, we are looking at a live picture from the beach and part of the boardwalk in Ocean City. We saw another shot just minutes ago that was all dark as well, but that looks ominous for sure.
Yeah, it's beautiful in a way, but ominous also, Mary. I agree. Let's take a live look right now at our Weather Authority radar. That system will move into Baltimore over the next few hours.
We want to get right over to Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers so he